Morning, teacher, and hi, everyone. My name is Dorothy, and I would like to read lesson 5 as a richness in meditation. Yes, I at the letter size 30 and speed 20. Now I would like to read. As a richness in meditation, reading 1. Follow in the lamp of richness in wisdom. Richness in meditation is the second one that needs to be lit among the 7 comprehensive riches. So what is richness in meditation? To clarify the knowing, believing, and understanding of richness in meditation, we first need to grasp the definition of meditation. A person who masters their meditation, and a person who is rich in meditation. Meditation is understood as the emotional stage of the inner being. A person who masters their meditation is someone who proactively chooses and takes responsibility for the choices within their inner being in order to master external circumstances. A person who is rich in meditation is someone who consistently maintains the emotions of appreciation, gratitude, and feeling, tolerance in nature, and joyful peace in the heart. Appreciation, gratitude. A person who achieves the state of peace and joy, tolerance, appreciation, gratitude to understand the concepts of peace and joy. We first need to clearly distinguish the reasons that create happiness. Human happiness comes from 2 reasons: pleasures of peace and joy. Pleasures is the emotional state of the inner being when the greed and delusion regarding while protein, fame, food, and sleep are temporarily satisfied. For example, eating a kitchen, a pie, a car can bring happiness, but how long can this happiness last? Will a man have a year or a year, regardless of the answer? The happiness derived from pleasure will ultimately not last forever. When people lose their happiness caused by pleasure, they continue seeking whether satisfactions for their greed and delusion. People often trace the happiness caused by pleasures for the entire lives. When greed and delusion are satisfied, people are happy. When they are not satisfied, people lose the happiness. Therefore, people need to know more about the happiness that comes from peace and joy. It's the state of internal awareness where the greed and delusion related to wealth, beauty, fame, food, and sleep are released, stopped, ceased, or cut off. Is the state of internal awareness originating from the truth within oneself. It stems from hearing, seeing, saying, knowing without attachment to the layer of nature and the layer of feeling of the person. It's the state of internal awareness that knows that one is hearing, knows that one is seeing, knows that one is saying, and knows that one is knowing. A person who achieves the meditation of peace and joy is a person for whom the complete or incomplete possessions of material objects satisfying greed and delusion is no longer a determining factor for happiness. Is a person who, when hearing and seeing the opponent's problem, only knows that they are hearing and only knows that they are seeing. Thus, when a person can master the peace and joy meditation, if they achieve a satisfaction of greed and delusion regarding wealth, beauty, fame, food, and sleep, they may experience happiness derived from pleasure. However, even if they do not achieve it, they can still experience that happiness due to the peace and joy. To receive the peace and joy meditation, the simplest way is to, throughout understanding the knowledge of the human state, to recognize the truth within oneself and thereby initiate the nature of emptiness, nullity, then peace and joy, and we manifest from that tolerance the energy of appreciation, gratitude, tolerance. To clarify the concepts of tolerance, we need to grasp the following concepts. A person with the virtue of forgiveness to the other person's mistake is 10 parts. They attack all 10 parts into themselves. And over time, 7 parts remain if the mistake is repeated. Anger, resentment, and sin flares up again. A person with the virtue of altruism, the other person's mistake is 10 parts. They take 7 parts into themselves. And over time, 5 parts remain. If the other person's mistake continue to recur, the business stage changes, causing anger, resentment to rise. A person with the virtue of magnanimity Lenin says, when you the idea business mistake is tempered, they take 4 or 5 parts into themselves, and over time, one to parts remain, and sometimes the mistake are completely gone. A person with a virtue of tolerance, the other person's mistake is tempered. They do not internalize the other person's mistake into themselves. We have this party and vision tolerance. Next, let's look at the definition of tolerance according to the UNESCO reference framework. Tolerance is respecting and understanding the difference of others regarding oneself in custom, living, conception, religion, beliefs, race, and ways of acting. It is accepting that the other do things that one does not approve of within a certain limit in order to guide them voluntarily towards goodness. And according to the WIT reference framework, informationalization, tolerance is the internal state of not being attached to anything that occurs in the mind due to external circumstances. Energization, tolerance is the stage where the nature of greed and the nature of delusion cease. Materialization, respect, understanding, and acceptance within a certain limit. When a person has tolerance for others, not being attached to the first, that person will voluntarily strive towards goodness. If we can show tolerance for a child first, that child will voluntarily strive towards goodness. If we can show tolerance for a spouse first, the husband or wife will voluntarily strive towards goodness. If we can show tolerance for an employee or boss, they will voluntarily live strive towards goodness. If we can show tolerance for ourselves, we will voluntarily strive towards goodness. A story is told again repeatedly. Dreamed a strange dream. In the dream, she saw many people locked inside a dark house, tightly secured by a wrist padlock, and they pleaded to be rescued. Following this, she came sitting bare and seemed increasingly filled lifeless. The doctor could diagnose her illness. She heard that an old man who could strange diseases, so she traveled to a long distance to find him. After hearing her account of what was happening, the monk said, "This topic is okay with your net, and the next time you have that dream, remember to use it to open the door to that house. Your illness will disappear after you rescue the people inside." She thanked the monk and returned home with the key. 2 days later, she had the strange dream again. This time, she brought the house and looked inside. She discovered the people in the house were those she had deeply resented, the mother-in-law who had insulted her, the neighbor who had slandered her, the childhood friend who had pushed her into a 50 ditch and almost drowned her, and others. She continued looking deeper and saw a three-legged dog. Suddenly realized that it was the cowardly dog that had bitten her when she was little one. On her way to school, instead of them had hurt her, she decided to open the door because she thought they deserved to be locked. She did not use the okay and ignored their cries for help. This bus and her illness was she decided to see the monk once again. More, the monk said, "You only have the one last year. You missed this one. The okay will no longer be able to have you. Then say you have that ring. You must unlock it before the padlock is completely sealed by." First, she decided she would follow the monk's words this time, that even if she dreamed the strange dream again with their hesitation, she took out the key and opened the door. Everyone in the house was out immediately after the door opened the house. Began to set violent from the corner of the room. A girl slowly raised herself towards the right. She looked very shabby, similarly and beautiful. She looked very much like the Raymond, stepping closer. But careful, she realized it was her and no one else. The dark house suddenly collapsed right. After that, girl stepped outside. Immediately afterwards, she saw the sunlight beginning to spread, erasing all the darkness. That light was incredibly glorious and woke up her health. Gradually recovered, her eyes became cheerful, her face again its terrible glow, and she looked beautiful again. She turned into feminine, and that what he happened to her. The monk said, "In life you start the food to everyone who cursed you. You may have thought you forgave those who wronged you, but in reality, you store a lot inside, torturing yourself with the force of others, and over time, there's accumulated feelings of resentment cause you to become ill. My child, look other else is also look yourself, looking up the price, also looking up the heritage. Accumulated resentment inside you is like dark house without light. Open the door and let the light flow in so your life can be better. Usually when we use the mistakes of others to talk to ourselves, it is like drinking poison and we sin the other person good day. If we do not show tolerance for ourselves, we cannot show tolerance for others. So tolerance for others is the simplest way to save our future, and we ourselves are the one who needed it most. Tolerance, once you have the energy source of tolerance, karmic connection will simply be activated. Appreciation, gratitude, the sages have pointed out to us that appreciation, gratitude is always present in every person. So why is it not simple for us to obtain this source of energy? This because taken for grantedness had appeared within us. When taken for grantedness, is appreciation, gratitude disappears, and resentment comes from that. Taken for grantedness is very large trap for the inner being. As soon as the edge of other happiness is repeated every time, the meditation of taken for grantedness naturally develops. Example, it is obvious that the mother is the child's mother, so she must take care of the child. It is obvious that the wife is the husband's wife, so she must cook for the husband. It is obvious that the child is the parents' child, so the child must repay their parents. A story is there. A young man had great benevolence. One day, the young man moved to a new neighborhood and saw a beggar in nearby. The young man committed to helping the beggar with 2 coins. Every day, he gave money this way continuously for 3 years. In the 3rd year, the young man only gave the beggar 1 coin. The beggar was surprised and asked why he was only give 1 coin when the young man had promised to give 2 coins every day for years. The young man said that he recently married last month, so he was saving a bit for the child. He asked the beggar to take only 1 coin from now on. Hearing this, the beggar became angry and slapped the young man, dry saying to him, "That why of your still 1 coin from me. Taking for granted is what erases all of your appreciation, gratitude. So how can we erase this taken for grantedness?" The way the Harley will realize that individuals have pointed out to us to nourish the inner sensation of pain move. The inner sensation of pain move is the internal feeling with the inner pain that one has something that one does not deserve but receives it anyway. In the condition where what one receives is the nature of greed and the nature of delusion of reality regarding where beauty, fame, food, and sleep. When you are eating a pearl rice, what do you see? There is grains of rice. You may see that to have pearl of rice, someone had to go to the market to buy rice, cook it, and serve it to it. To have the right to cook, we must have people selling rice at the market, and before that, the rice had to transport it by rivers to have the vehicle to transport the rice. We owe the Japanese, Koreans, and Chinese before we produced the vehicles. And for the rice to be grown, we also owe the people of Thailand for the rice cultivation technology with their various pesticides. We also owe the technology of the Chinese that just to eat a very ordinary pearl of rice. We already indebted to their favor until of thousands and millions of people. However, usually we consider routines we have as taken for granted, being able to eat it. Taken for granted, drinking water is taken for granted, and being cared for and looked after by loved ones is also taken for granted. Fortunately, for us, we can completely nurture the inner sensation of being moved with a mindset like this. What others do for me is what they shouldn't do. What I do for others is what I should do. Once we nurture the inner sensation of being moved, it is very simple for us to begin to have appreciation, gratitude, and resentment are like light and darkness. Once appreciation, gratitude is present, or resentment will disappear simultaneously. The angel source of appreciation, gratitude will activate our karmic research. Some readers will have a little lamp of richness in meditation. The person who is rich in meditation is someone who has appreciation, gratitude, and emotional tolerance in nature and peace. joy in the mind. A person who is great in meditation will keep their internal electromagnetic vibrations stay balanced and positive directional. This activates the sense of karma total in the subconscious soul or a positive direction. Being joy will activate karmic awareness, tolerance will activate karmic connection, and appreciation, gratitude will activate karmic results. From this, it is very simple for people to have good life. That's all. Thank you for your listening. Bye. See you next video. Bye.